of her heart and out of Hi, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Captain's Quarters Podcast, episode 147, right, Davey?
Right.
Whoa, okay, 147 episodes. That's a lot of weeks. And we welcome you to Captain's Quarters Podcast, St. Augustine, Florida. Our biggest sponsor and always our best sponsor is the St. Augustine Piderton Treasure Museum. I give some fun tours through the museum, but if you want to just wander about and read about it yourself, by all means. The museum is open 7 days a week from 10 a.m. till 7 p.m., and it's only closed one day in the year, and that is Christmas Day. So cheers to Captain's Quarters Podcast. How do you find us, Davey? That's right, ladies and gentlemen, YouTube. Captain's Quarters Podcast on YouTube. Use that QR code. Find out about us. Like us. Share us. What's the other two? Subscribe and follow. I can never remember all of them because I'm more concerned with having people like me. So just like me. The rest of the stuff is important, though. YouTube, QR code. Come on in and join the crew and be with us every week. It's different every week, as you're about to see here in just a few moments. I see a few people popping in already into the gallery. That's good to see. Davey, we always start the show on a solemn note. 8 Bells, sponsored by our good friends at the Rikers family of reenactors. They do Spanish, they do British, they do Ren, and they do Pirate. And they're very, very good about keeping up with the traveling museum, Mayhem's Museum of Nautical History. So we're proud to have them around. How many do we have this week, Davey?
8.
And let me ask you this. Is Chichi Rodriguez one?
Yes.
Very good. I have a short, easy story to tell about him. On that note, what do we have? Patty Yasutake, and I got that name right, was an American stage, film, and television actress. She was best known for her portrayal as nurse Alyssa Ogawa in the Star Trek franchise. She was the sister of Irene Hirano. She was 70 years old. This next one's going to kill me, though. Connie Temweka Gatasel Chium, a South African actress and filmmaker. She was known for her film roles in Black Panther, Black is King, and Blessers. On television, she appeared in Yizo Yizo 2, Zone 14, Rhythm City, and Gomorrah. In 2000, she won the award for Best Actress in a Drama Series at the South African Film and Television Awards. She was 72 years old. Juan Antonio Chichi Rodriguez, Puerto Rican professional golfer, the winner of 8 PGA Tour events. He was the first Puerto Rican to be inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame. In '89, Rodriguez was voted the Bob Jones Award, the highest honor given by the United States Golf Association in recognition of distinguished sportsmanship in the golf world. He was 88. And a quick story, I got to meet him back in the 90s. I was a guest local performer for what was then called the Michael Landon Golf and Tennis Classic, but when Michael Landon passed, it was traded off to Rick Springfield, and Rick Springfield traded it off to Jeff Bridges. And Chichi Rodriguez was there for those golf tournaments. And he was a fun guy. He sat around in the evenings when I sat and did close-up magic in the bars for all the guests. And to me, it was quite an honor to be able to do magic for all the celebrities themselves. That was fun. Next up, it's Mitzi McCall, born Mitzi Steiner, an American comedian and actress. She appeared in Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In and was also a series regular on such television series as Life Goes On and with her husband on Silk Stockings. Other credits include guest appearances on The Twilight Zone, Maude, Dharma and Greg, and Chuck, as well as voiceover work for many cartoons. She was 91 years old. John Andrew McBride, an American astronaut, naval officer, and test pilot. Over the course of his career with the United States Navy, McBride served as an aviator, a fighter pilot, a test pilot, and an aeronautical engineer. He had achieved the rank of captain when he retired in '89. McBride was an astronaut with NASA, a role in which he piloted STS-41G and would have been commander of STS-61E had the mission not been canceled in the wake of the Challenger disaster. He was 80 years old. J. Ira Cantor, an American film producer and talent agent, best known for his long association with Alan Ladd Jr. He was an agent at MCA for a number of years, and he also known for his biographical work such as Grace Kelly, the American Princess, Brando, Marlon Brando, an actor named Desire, and he was 97 years old. Bobby Botcher was an American dirt-modified racing driver. Botcher had a 9-year winning streak at the Orange County Fair Speedway, New York, 70 to 79, capturing 26 modified features and the 1973 track championship at the venue during his career. Bobby Botcher was inducted into the Northeast Dirt Modified Hall of Fame in 2000. He was 85. Angel Salazar, Cuban-American comedian and actor. He is known for saying, "Check it out," before, during, and after jokes, and as an actor was best known for his appearance in the 1983 film Scarface. He was 68 years old. And that we have, ladies and gentlemen, are 8 bells. And as always, we raise a glass, a toast to those that have passed, to their fans and their families, and to all those that love them. A cheer, and Davy, 8 bells. Very good. Thank you, Davy. Of course, now we like to bring it up a notch. We can't always be sullen and gloomy. So let's have Minnie Mayhem come into the studio and tell us the joke of the week. Is Minnie there?
Yep.
Come on, bring him in.
Ahoy, mates. Minnie Mayhem here with Joke of the Week. Sponsored by Salt City Comics. How did the pirate die from drinking milk? Think about it, and I'll give you the answer at the end of the show.
How did the pirate die from drinking milk? All right, I'll bite, but I'll wait till the end of the show when we have the reveal. That means you have to watch the whole show just to get the answer to that great joke. Sponsored by Salt City Comics. All right, let's see. I see 2 Skulls has come in, and I also see Linda Hall. Hello, Linda. Thank you for joining us. And of course, our grand, most of all regular watchers is Zachary Harker and Jim Neuenfeld, and of course, Kara Creamer. That's my better half. And I see Will the Historian. For those of you that know, that is my son watching from Alabama. Hey, just a little side note to my son. I hope everything went well today. Let me know. Upon that note, ladies and gentlemen, I have to bring up my scripting again so I can remember what we're doing. And it is Quote of the Week. How appropriate is that? Quote of the Week. And ladies and gentlemen, it's sponsored by Spyglass Travel. If you want a great tour of St. Augustine, then you should join Spyglass Travel. Not only do you get a great tour of the most historic city in the entire United States, but you get exercise on top of that. And at an hour walking or more, you're going to get some exercise. I do suggest that you either do it early in the morning or late in the afternoon. Don't do it in the middle of the day right now. But catch up with my friends Kevin and Angie at Spyglass Travel. Upon that, Davey, what's the quote? Liberty cannot be preserved without general knowledge among the people. John Adams. I like that. I got to think about that one for a minute. Sounds like a good one to me. And John Adams was a very smart man. I just see that Parlay 8 has already logged in too. Very good. And we always do now, at this point in time, National Day of. And I believe there's 3 of them.
Yep.
So, what are they, Davey? National Julian Fries Day. Each year on National Julian Fries Day, on August 12th, everyone fries up skinny sliced potatoes for a delicious, crunchy treat. All right, very good. And next, National Vinyl Record Day. Get spinning on August 12th with National Vinyl Record Day. Whether it's the Beatles, Elvis, the Monkees, Johnny Cash, or the Bee Gees, vinyl records have a sound all their own. Most will agree vintage vinyl is as classic as the bands themselves, and I will agree with that. And National Middle Child Day. Each year on August 12th, National Middle Child Day honors that in-between child in the family. Of course, larger families celebrate more than one middle child. And if anybody is wondering, although I don't see him tonight in the gallery, my brother, my younger brother, is the middle child. All right, let's see. So that brings us to question of the week, ladies and gentlemen.
Nope, quote.
Quote of the week. No,
You're right. You're right. Question.
My own man is questioning my thought process here. Ancient City Sirens will be our guest sponsor there for that question of the week. And you know them, Miss Gina and all the girls. They provide dancing for almost every pirate event within 4, 5, or 6 counties, all the way over to Panama City, to Tybee Island, to anywhere else in the world you think you need it. There you are. So, ladies and gentlemen, question of the week. What do you think the best-selling album of all time is? Now, I'm frustrated by this, ladies and gentlemen, because I thought, well, that'll be easy to do. I'll put in my search engine, the 100 best-selling albums of all times. I got a dozen different locations you could go and look, and I got several different answers. But the number one was almost the number one on every one of them. I'm not going to tell you what it is. We'll wait and see if anybody answers it. Of course, well, I already answered Michael Jackson, Thriller, by my son, Will the Historian. So since he did it, I'm going to tell you a story about my boy, my son, when he was only a few years old. And Michael Jackson's Thriller came out, and, well, me and my son danced to Thriller in the living room of our base housing at Andrews Air Force Base many, many times. And that stuck with him ever since. He owns the album. You own the dance too, my good son. You own the dance. But Michael Jackson is it, ladies and gentlemen. 500 million albums, and the only one to come close to him is Elvis Presley, with also 500 million albums. There you have it. So, this week in nautical history, sponsored by Florida Water Tours. Davey, are you ready? Florida Water Tours is a great way to see the city from the water, the Matanzas Bay, see the oldest city in the nation. I highly recommend that when they start doing their Night of Lights rides, you take one, because that is the most fun. Seeing the city by the view of the river and the Night of Lights. But Florida Water Tours is our sponsor for This Week in Nautical History. Go ahead, Davey.
Welcome to This Week in Nautical History, sponsored by our friends at Florida Water Tours. Experience the Intercoastal Waterway at its finest, featuring picture-perfect attractions. We begin This Week in Nautical History in the year 1492. Christopher Columbus arrives in the Canary Islands on his first voyage to the New World. 1499. First engagement of the Battle of Zonchio between Venetian and Ottoman fleets. 1597. Cornelius de Houtman's Dutch fleet arrives back in Holland, the first Dutch visit to Java. 1620. Mayflower sets sail from Southampton, England, with 102 pilgrims. 1762. English fleet occupies Havana. 1807. Robert Fulton's steamboat, Clermont, begins first trip up Hudson River. 1813. British warship Pelican attacks and captures U.S. war brigantine Argus. 1817. 60 to 70-foot sea serpent sightings reported offshore in Gloucester, Massachusetts. 1838, United States exploring expedition headed by Charles Wilkes departs for the Pacific Ocean and Antarctica. 1852, steamer Atlantic crossing Lake Erie from Buffalo to Detroit collides with a fishing boat, sinks with 250 aboard. 1864, U.S. Civil War, off New England coast, CSS Tallahassee captures 6 Yankee schooners. And finally, in 2007, bulk carrier MV New Flame collides with oil tanker Torm Gertrude at the southernmost tip of Gibraltar, ending up partially submerged. And that was This Week in Nautical History.
Very good, Davey. Very good. A couple of things that might pop up, because I see a couple of people. Jim says Revolver was one of the top albums. It was in the top 100. I will tell you that several of the Beatles albums made it to the top 100. So, we always like to talk about crew adventures, past, present, and future. So before we do anything, let's talk about Spooktacular coming up. Davey, there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to be a sponsor for Spooktacular and have your name or your company name in the scene, one of the scenes of our Spooktacular, we'd love to have you. There it is right there. Hit that QR code if you like, or send us a message and we'll send you this personally so you can be a part of it. We actually, believe it or not, that's an older poster. We actually have 10 sponsors at the $200 level. Now, we are past the August 5th deadline for the 200, so it's now 250. But as a show of good solidarity, if you actually hear us on this show or see us on this show, I will drop the 50 and make it a $200 commitment anyway, and we're looking to put 10 more on. We'd love to have you if you'd like to, or know a company that would like to join us. It puts your logo in one of the scenes. It puts your logo or your name on the entrance welcome banner and the exit thank you banner. You also will receive at least 4, and I may up it, but you'll receive at least 4 children's tickets to give away and do with as you please. And of course, starting here in just another week or two, we will be showing all these sponsors on our podcast for every week until showtime. So join us if you like. The money goes to Alia's Acres and Inc. Investing in Kids. We'd love to have you be a part of that and join us if you will. Now, that's the t-shirt poster. Before we put the t-shirt poster up, Davey, let's talk about what you and I got to do this past. You know what? Let's put the t-shirt poster up, then we'll talk about it. Go ahead and put the t-shirt poster up. That's a good cue for somebody to come into the scene. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want a t-shirt for our podcast, we'd love for you to be wearing our podcast emblem over your heart, and you can get one of those t-shirts. They are $26, and you have until the 31st of August. If you get one of the t-shirts, we're going to give you a challenge coin from the podcast, and we're going to maybe on the first weekend in September, or the first Monday in September, have a little drawing of all the people that bought t-shirts from us. So you still have 4 more weeks. So please go ahead and join us and buy a t-shirt. A portion of the money is going to the St. Johns County Humane Society also for their food bank program. Thank you, Captain Slew. Captain Slew is hollering at us from Quebec, Canada. We appreciate you being on board tonight. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to bring in Captain Storm from the Ancient City Privateers, one of the crews here in St. Augustine. And say hello to our audience.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me, Captain.
I appreciate it. Well, we appreciate you coming by. We had a good time the other night. They actually, what'd you have, 15 of your crew?
We had 14 or 15, we did.
And they came down and took the 3 o'clock tour through the Pirate Museum. Hope they learned something. And then afterwards, we went to the City Gates Distillery and had a little sample of all of their booze, whiskey and rum.
A little bit of
Just a little bit of sampling, and then we went back over to the Colonial Quarter. I had a little sit down and socializing. I had a beer in my hand, and then they took off to points unknown. I believe one of those points was Prohibition Kitchen. Yes, very good. So it was a good bridge building between two crews and the podcast. And I personally think it was well worth it. What do you think?
I think it went fantastic, and we appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for your generosity in setting that up for our crew, and we've had nothing but rave reviews from it.
Good, good.
I appreciate it.
Well, I know that you know the tour was but the museum is really great. So that's the most important part. So,
Well, that was the general consensus.
of course, I know.
Right.
That's why I kept drinking. So, on that note, you've now been the captain of Ancient City Privateers for less than a year.
It will be 1 year in October.
1 year in October. And Ancient City Privateers has been in existence since 2008. Went through paper changes and modified their papers in 2009, I believe, but they've always been a 501. That's the logo they had when they restarted in 2009. I should have gotten the logo out that we had when it was in 2008, but I didn't think about it. So Ancient City Privateers has been around officially since 2009. That means that is 11, 12, 13, 14 years now, right? It is 14 years. Very good. So
This will be our 15th year.
yes, starting your 15th year. That's right. So you are a crew of how many?
We're in the low 20s right now.
Right.
And as you got to see, we inducted a new member, we inducted a full member, and we inducted a member who came back to the crew after being gone for several years. So we're growing slowly, but we're growing surely.
Well, we in the Swashbucklers have actually made a limitation on how many people, because the more people you have, the more issues you have to deal with, and it gets a little dicey. So it's much better to keep a closer family, I think.
Well, sometimes it does, and you mentioned the word family, and it's a cliche, but I think with our group it really is. They've been through some things together, and we have a group of dedicated veteran pirates, many that have kind of been around, and we all are sort of close knit. I think with these activities we put together, it's hard not to build a friendship with at least on some level of everybody, which is one thing I really appreciate about the group of folks that we have.
It's also important to understand and know that a lot of these pirate crews have a goal, and you have a goal. You have a charity you do stuff for.
We do have a charity, and if you mind if I talk about that?
No, absolutely. That's the open door right there.
Okay.
And I think it's a great charity. So we're giving them some extra credit here. So let's go.
It is a wonderful charity. So the charity is called Pie in the Sky, and I wrote down a few, just a few facts and figures here. So Pie in the Sky, first off, they are I wouldn't call them a food bank, but they do bring food to low-income seniors, and their specialty is fresh fruits and vegetables. So when you typically see a food bank, not that there's anything wrong with it, you have rice and canned goods and things like that, and those are real. But especially as these folks are getting older and they have health needs, they need things like fresh fruits and vegetables. And not only is that the most logistically difficult, it tends to be some of the most expensive.
Yeah.
So this group specializes in that particular side of the food bank, and they go twice a week. They have a whole line at their warehouse, and there's boxes of zucchinis, and cucumbers, and squash, and bananas, and you fill this up. There's a long, almost like a bucket brigade that fills up these bags, and then once that's done, they go into, there's a caravan of private vehicles that drives up, and they go to all points unknown in St. Johns County and delivers these to these seniors. And just a few things here. So they, many of them are veterans. Many of them have some health issues. Most do not have their own transportation. And getting out in the community, which I think has been very eye-opening for us as a crew. Many of them have very humble accommodations.
Right.
And it's kind of made a difference, as in, it's great to feel good, to donate money, but getting out there and doing the work and going to these people's homes, it really shows not just the difference that you make, but the need that's there. And just a few stats here. So
To make it easier.
I can see it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. So currently, according to there, 89 cents of every dollar that is donated to PI goes directly to their program. They have
That's impressive.
They have very low overhead.
That's
low
very
overhead.
impressive.
In 2023 alone, they purchased and delivered 512 tons of healthy food. That's over 1 million pounds.
Wow.
If my pirate math is correct, it's over 1 million pounds. So in June, Ancient City Privateers adopted 5 seniors for the entire year for their needs for fresh fruits and vegetables, eggs, bread. They also get homemade soup. And while that does sound impressive, and we're very proud to do that, here's some other statistics. Put that into perspective that currently Pie in the Sky maintains 550 seniors, and their motto is they cannot say no. And they expect to serve 600 by the end of the year.
And all in St. Johns County.
All in St. Johns County. All in St.
Wow.
Johns County.
And most of them are veterans.
Well, there are some.
A good portion.
When you get to that, demographic, I think it's unavoidable. Yes.
Probably,
yes.
yeah.
A lot of them are.
So it brings a question then, because it is the hardest food to maintain, because as you said earlier, canned foods are easy. Everybody donates canned food all the time, and
Correct.
bags of rice and cereal and whatever else, but non-perishables, I guess is what they call it. Where do they get all of this fresh fruit and vegetables? Do you know? Do they tell you where it comes from? Is there a source? Do they have? I'm sure they have more than one source. So what's the answer to that?
They do function a lot on donations, but they do have to purchase some of it.
Really?
And it does stay within the, well, I call it the warehouse. It's on it's off of Riberia Street, not far from the St. Augustine distillery.
Okay.
So when I say warehouse, it's still relatively small.
So they make purchases. So if money is donated to them, the money, like you said, 89 cents of every dollar goes to buying all these things.
Yes, it does.
Yes. That's food. We've done stuff. The Swashbuckler's done stuff for food banks. Now the only food bank we actually do anything for right now is the Humane Society, because they need a food bank for the pets too.
Absolutely.
But it's going to get tougher. We can only say that. I mean, in pre-show, we had a brief conversation about this, but the price of everything has gone up, and it's going to be a very tough time. And this kind of a charity is very important to have in our community.
And it's something to keep in mind that not only does it become tougher for the individuals, it becomes tougher for the charities.
It does, very
Because
much so.
they have to share the cost as well.
Yes. So does Pie in the Sky do any other fundraisers?
They do some fundraisers of their own, and they've had some pie auctioning. They'll have a pie contest, and everybody bakes their favorite pie, and they go out and they have these judges that take a slice of pie, and then the pies are auctioned off. And it's amazing not only how much money they get for the pies, but I will say it's amazing how good the pies are.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's a good thing. Well, I like doing stuff for the charities, and one of the points you brought up, and I've done this with some of my crew before too. We haven't done it in a while, but when you are put in a position to take the food to the people and see who they are, you see the other end of where that food is. You see where it starts, you see the processing, and then you see where it ends up. It gives you a different thought process of what you're really doing your charity for.
It really does.
Same thing happened when we don't do it the same way anymore, but we used to deliver toys everywhere. And there are just so many charities delivering toys now. The competition was getting tough. Not that it should be competition, but it was getting so that the pirates and the other toy drives were stepping all over each other.
Sure.
So now what we do is we give most of our money to a couple of charities. But a perfect example was we delivered 5 bicycles to one family once.
Wow.
They had just had all their bicycles stolen. The children had been left on the doorstep of the grandma and the mom. The mom and the children left the kids and left. And within a week, all their bikes had been stolen. And it was just, so we went and got 5 bicycles, and we delivered them to those kids a couple of days before Christmas. The joy I got out of it was standing back and watching my pirates cry
that was my joy, to watch my pirates cry and actually see this is the benefit.
Absolutely.
So that's the benefit of having your pilots deliver the food and or adopting these families you've done. That gives you the opportunity to really see that your charity is well worth working for.
It really is. And I do want to say that not only is the charity itself good, but the people are just fantastic. The people that are at the charity are fantastic, from Malia, Phyllis, Tanya, Heidi, Roosevelt. They're all just amazing, wonderful people to work with.
Now, are they retired as well, or is this somewhat of a job for them, or do they have other jobs and they donate their time?
Most of them are volunteers.
Really?
Yes.
That's probably one of the reasons why 89 cents of every dollar. It's one of the reasons, if you want to give to charity, and there have been some news programs about certain charities, and I'm not going to mention charities, I don't want to become political, but there are some charities that they will advertise, a certain amount of money goes to the charity, a certain amount of money goes to the operating expenses. If any charity is giving more than 40% to operating expenses, they're not there for the charity. They're there for the people that are on the board. And it's really tough, but the voluntary status of these things, charity is going to become an even bigger thing over the years. There's information on Pie in the Sky. Davey's always really good about collecting that and getting that up there. There's Pie in the Sky. If you want to call them up or make a donation, if you make a donation, please mention that you saw this particular segment of the show, Captain's Quarters Podcast, with the captain of Ancient City Privateers. That way they get credit for it and we get credit for it as well. And there's an opportunity there, if you go to their website, to click on their 2023 annual report. I bet that's a very interesting thing to see, and it proves a good point. So charity is a good thing. A really good thing.
Yes.
So you do a couple of events every year. You do Blackbeard's Ball.
We do.
And
there are events right there.
There they are. I got to put my glasses on. Let's look at them. Let's see. So you've got a walkabout coming up in September.
We do.
You've got a pipe. Well, I'll read them down and then we'll talk about them.
Sure.
You've got a scavenger hunt on the 14th of September. You've got your meeting and walkabout on the 5th of October. I have to do my math. Meeting and walkabout on the 11th, or on the 9th, which is in November. And then the 15th, you have Blackbeard's Ball. So your meetings and your walkabouts are just to make your presence known downtown. But let's talk about your, put that back up real quick, Davey, I'm sorry. Let's talk about the two biggest parts of that. Your scavenger hunt on the 14th, which we've talked about, but unfortunately I just got the word today that St. Augustine Swashbucklers and Captain Mayhem have a huge part in the Ancient City Con out in the Wargolf Village that whole weekend.
Oh, well, congratulations to you.
So we won't. I got that this morning.
That's fantastic.
I always ask the man that runs it, and his answer, his reply to my question, which was a week old, and I thought, okay, we're not going to be in it.
Right.
He says, I always expect you're going to be in it. So I had to tell him, I always expect you to tell me, though. I don't want to assume.
Right.
So you're going to have a scavenger hunt. Let's talk about the scavenger hunt and a pub crawl. So is the money raising for your crew?
It is. It's for Ancient City Privateers, and I can talk about it just a little bit. So we're going to do a scavenger hunt. We're going to be like a treasure hunt pub crawl. We're going to start at 11:30. Registration starts at 11:30 at Captain Scar's Pirate Store, and we're going to send the crews off at. You can form your own team. Tickets are $20. You can go by yourself. You can form a team up of 3 or 4 people, and you'll be given a clue, and the clue should take you to the first pub. And at each of the pubs, you'll find a small treasure chest. Open up the treasure chest, and there's a colored gem. And take one of those colored gems and put it in your little sack. And there's a QR code on the inside of your treasure chest. You scan that and get your next clue.
Very good.
And hopefully, if you've solved all the clues correctly, you have gone to all 5 pubs. And once you get all 5 gems, you come back, and the teams that are verified that they've collected all 5 gems are entered into a drawing for the grand prize basket. So the best part about this is the way that some some pub crawls have been. The best part about this, it's not timed.
Yes.
So as long as you're back by 4 o'clock, that's fine. You can spend all, you can enjoy the afternoon. You can have drinks at these places that are being very accommodating to help us out. And
so you've got 5 pubs in 5 hours, no timing. So you've made one mistake. They're not walking back, they're staggering back. They'll be staggering back. So can you tell us the 5 pubs?
those, well, that would ruin the.
I guess it
ruin the
would.
slide, wouldn't it?
It sure would. I didn't think about it that way. You're absolutely right. Darn.
But to your point about staggering back, we may structure it so the clues get easier the more you drink. Would that be better?
Yeah, that would be better.
Or could we be evil and make them harder?
Well, I think the more they drink, the harder it's going to get, no matter what.
You're probably right.
Yes, probably so.
Yes.
Now, do you have a requirement? We did some pub crawls back in the day, and we always had a requirement that every one of our crew that went on the pub crawl, you had to make one purchase at every pub. That's how they got their benefits back for having us use them.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't always have to be booze. It could be food. It could be, and we told people that maybe every second or third pub, throw some food in your gullet. So is there any requirements of that yet in any way, shape, or form?
I haven't put the requirements out because, to be honest, I've spent time with my crew, and I don't think that's going to be a problem.
In most cases, it probably isn't. That's true.
Not to throw you under the bus, guys.
No,
but
yeah, I'm sure.
Right.
So in other words, they will probably all be staggering back. That's true. All right. So that's your scavenger hunt, and the money goes directly to the support of your crew.
it goes to the support of our crew, and what does not go to operating costs goes to our charities.
Right. Which also helps you in the 15th of November event, your Blackbeard's Ball.
That's correct. So Blackbeard's Ball is the premier A.C.P. fundraising event of the year. And once again, we're happy to have it hosted at Art in Motion. That's in North Downtown St. Augustine. And one of the things that we like about that, and I think everybody else likes that, it's free parking and convenient.
That is nice.
So we will have appearances by Pirates of Iniquity, Ancient City Sirens, whom you've already mentioned. Gina and her girls will be there. With the royal family, we'll have a DJ. We'll be catered by a local favorite, Mojo Barbecue, and it should be a fantastic time.
So how much are tickets for that event?
Tickets are $70 until October 1st. They go up another $15, and I see the link is right there. ancientcityprivateers.org events. You can buy tickets to both the pub crawl and to Blackbeard's Ball at that event, and there are more details on there too. There's some details pages on there. I'll give you the rundown.
So $70. That gets you. What does it get you for $70?
That gets you entrance. It gets you the entertainment. It gets you food, and it gets you access to cash bar, and we also have some silent auction. We have some good stuff coming up in the silent auction.
Oh, very good, very good. That happens to be the weekend before I start a nonstop work schedule from that weekend all the way to December 24th. That's the hint of why I'm nonstop working, December 24th. I won't tell anybody what it is. If you can figure it out, it'll be my 4th year portraying this non-pirate character. So if things work out, I may just have to make an appearance at the Blackbeard Ball.
And all we can say is we know the beard is real.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. There you go.
There we go. We would be honored to have you at Blackbeard's Ball. It would be our pleasure.
So Zachary is in Michigan, and the pub crawl his crew hosts, we advertise it as a family-friendly event, as we have crew that doesn't drink. So all of our stops have alternate choices. Also, we have one stop at an ice cream shop.
An ice cream shop.
That's a good idea.
That is a good idea.
That is a good idea. I like that. Very good.
So to Zach's point, so these are all pubs, but these are all, this is a Saturday afternoon. And
Right.
These are all places that do serve food.
Right.
And so they are all family friendly, at least during.
And of course, it would be very irresponsible for two captains to sit here and explain to people pub crawls in St. Augustine. There are some rules that we should make sure everybody understands, like wandering around St. Augustine with an open alcoholic container is a no-no.
Is a good way to land in the St. Johns County Hotel.
Yep, that's it for sure. Making sure you pay your tab. We've had pirates that have walked out on tabs before, and that's not a good representation of any pirate, any pirate crew. So make sure that you pay attention to your tabs and honor up on it. And always, always, always tip your bartenders and your wait staff and those people that take care of us. That's a very important thing, to make sure that they know they are appreciated. Will the historian says, they are not going to stagger back. They will crawl. It's a pub crawl. Oh, okay. I'll give you that one. Very good. So are there any other rules you can think of that we should make sure we kind of give everybody a friendly reminder on?
For the pub crawl, I
Yeah.
don't think so. We'll lay out a few things on the day and
Yeah.
remind everybody of that. And to your point about the tipping, absolutely.
Yes.
And don't tip any less, even though it's times are getting a little harder, because these people are not working any less.
No.
They're working just as hard to keep us happy, serve some drinks, and
When we lived in
Keep us on our way.
when we lived in Vegas, there were 3 or 4 different Vegas magazines. They all had different names, and they talked about the culture and everything. And there was a page in every one of them that talked about what tips should be when you're in Vegas. There are magazines here in St. Augustine and newspapers, and I've talked to several of the people that create those and tell them they need to do the same thing here. They need to put in there that suggested ideas of tips for waiters and bar staff and anybody else that earns tips as part of their pay. It needs to be spelled out, because there are a lot of people that do not tip. And I know we're not supposed to be a tip related society, but every dime that comes in is very important for everybody. So Paula says, when Tiger Lee had a store in St. Augustine, he used to do pub crawls once a month. We would stop at a restaurant along the way and do dinner, and then have a great game of liar's dice. Oh, that's a good idea. We did a liar's dice tournament once. We only did it once. And I think it might be something that with you guys doing Blackbeard's Bowl, and then Crew of the 13 does their casino, and then Matanzas Bay Buccaneer does their Bootleggers Ball. I think maybe a liar's dice tournament would be kind of interesting to do.
I like the idea.
Yeah, I think we might have to do that. The city should put up a tip poster at the garage. That's a good idea, Jim. They really should. I mean, it's terrible that we have to tell people that tipping is polite and required at times. It's worse that we have to tell people how much they should tip. Tips are gratuity, and it's a gratuity both directions. But there are some people. I mean, here's the best and the worst tip I ever got, all at the exact same time. During one of my tours, I had a little boy who was about 8 or 9 years old that came out and gave me 35 cents. He gave me a quarter, a nickel, and 5 pennies, and said, "This is for you. Thank you for the tour." And I didn't want to take it, but he would not let me give it back to him. So I put it in my pocket and I kept it. And that was the worst and the best tip. Worse because it was a small amount of money, but the best tip was because of where it came from, and it was a tip from that little boy's heart.
And it's probably all he had.
And it might have been all he had.
And you probably made his day.
So it was, so tipping is important. Tipping shows gratitude, it shows thankfulness, and it shows respect. If you give somebody a decent tip, it shows you respect what they're doing. So we'll have to see. Paula says she'd be glad to help out with that tournament. Well, we'll talk about that for 2025, because 2024 is almost over and there's too much going on to worry about it. So what else you want to tell us about Ancient City Privateers?
Well, we've had a fantastic year, and so speaking of 2025, we're thinking of adding a few more fundraisers there. One of the ones that we do typically that we do in the fall is debauchery bingo.
Right.
That is decidedly an adult event, but we were thinking of moving that into the spring. It seems to be in the pirate world. Once you get out of the Celtic Fest, St. Augustine festivities, and all the Easter festivities, that there doesn't seem to be a whole lot in the way of fundraisers. So we're going to push that into May. So,
Now, you also talked about, and I'll say it, and if this is inappropriate time, then we just leave it alone. But there is a consideration of a change of the Blackbeard Bowl.
So we are thinking about changing Blackbeard's ball. So
So I put you on the spot.
No,
so-
you're fine. Either 2 or 3 years ago, I don't remember. I believe it was because the previous year had been delayed because of COVID.
Right.
It was in September, and it seemed to be pretty good turnout. It didn't seem to be a lot of attrition from having it then. So we were thinking about having it in September of next year. And part of the fortuitousness of having it next year is that September 19th, Talk Like a Pirate Day,
Talk Like Pirate Day
is on a Friday night. And Blackbeard's Ball has traditionally been on a Friday night. And what we'd like to do is hold Blackbeard's Ball on a Friday night. And then for everybody that's staying over in town, we'll have our pub crawl treasure hunt the next Saturday,
Very good.
September 20th.
A good way to take care of it. And Talk Like Pirate Weekend is a big weekend. I used to do from the Pirate Museum, when we first started with the Pirate Museum, we used to do a treasure hunt up and down St. George Street for the kids. There were 2 years we had about 200 children show up.
Wow.
Yeah, it was huge.
Wow.
But some things change over time. And so there's all kinds of possibilities to do things at specific times. We try to bring guests on the show that have something to do or coincide with pirate events at times, or we bring guests on the show that coincide with something historical. So if you can change your Blackbeard's Ball to Talk Like a Pirate Day, I don't know, I think it's pretty appropriate to have Blackbeard's Ball around Talk Like a Pirate Day.
I agree, and our crew likes to think outside the box, and while we do like to keep doing some of our traditional things, we also the crew pretty much has the mindset of we don't have to do this just because this is the way it's always been done.
Well,
We can put our own spin on the little brand, and I have to admit this wasn't exactly my original idea, and somebody mentioned it, and I said, that actually sounds like a fantastic idea.
sounds like a great idea, and it
does sound
probably
like a
will
great
work.
idea. It will.
So,
Just thinking that all of a sudden I needed to do why did the picture do that? I want to do a quick check-in here. If you're watching the cameras, I want to make sure that there are not anybody sleeping over in the other side. I see a couple of people. Wave at everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, there are wives, our better halves, and there's Max right there laying on the couch. So they're over there making sure we don't say anything wrong. There are our overseers. So March and April are always big in St. Augustine because of the Celtic Festival, the Seafood Festival, the Easter Parade,
Right.
the Celtic Parade. It just wears everybody out to try to do any pirate stuff in that same time frame. May is a good month to do things. June, July, August is terrible because it's just too blasted hot at times to wear our gear. So you have to think outside the box for events there,
Right.
trying to see if you can bring your costuming or your garbing down a bit. So it's a challenge to put these events on. It's also a challenge to try to keep putting them on. That's the big thing, is to try to keep it going, because every year it has to be bigger. In my opinion, every year it has to be bigger, it has to be better, or it has to offer new things.
So that's a good point, and we like to bigger is good, but we like to focus on quality, and especially again, I hate to keep going back to the things are more expensive. Yes, they are more expensive.
It is.
But I want to make sure, even though everyone knows these are fundraisers and everyone knows these great charities that we're supporting, you still want to get something for a bang for your buck with these events. And we try to make these as quality as we can. And if that means we don't make quite as much money, people will come back and people will continue to support the crew and support the charities that we support.
So have you already started selling tickets for Blackbeards?
Tickets went on sale today.
Today?
And they went on sale today.
Very good.
And again, they're available on our website under the events.
Well, that's a good one. That's a good event. So be watching for that. You all know that we have our event in February, the first weekend in February. Is the Crew of the 13 still doing a casino night? Have they decided?
I don't know. I haven't heard yet.
I'm trying to get the captain of the Crew of the 13 to come and talk to us also. We'd like to support them a little bit also.
That would be great.
So
That would be great.
it would be, and it's this past weekend, having your crew come out for the tour, and then we all went over to the distillery and drank. Davey, we haven't showed those pictures yet, have we?
We have not.
Well, let's show a few pictures. There's some of us. So there's the captain and his lovely better half standing right there in the dark hair. And that's, is that Catherine in the back?
Yes.
From Briggswood and
Right.
Kathy Hughes.
Yeah, right.
And my caption on this picture was something about a sticker. And I'll leave it at that.
Right, very good. Yes. Here we are, standing there at the bar, bellying up to the bar. Yes, the person standing next to me, she's very short. I offered to get Dora a step stool so she could stand up and be closer to the bar, but she was happy there. She said she can hold herself up better that way. So, but there's many of the crew down the line there, and I have to give credit to the distillery. When we walked in, we had 16 of us, I guess, 14, 15 of you, and then me and Davey. And so we walked in, and I asked if they could set it up so we could all be on the bar, and they set it up, and they were very gracious to us and took care of us. In fact, I still have to go in and buy a couple of bottles from them to show my appreciation.
Yeah,
So
very good.
I'll do that at the end of the week here, this week coming up. So, and there's another great shot from the other end of the bar. That's Bob, right?
That's Bob and Davey.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you've never been to Ancient City Distilleries, ladies and gentlemen, you should go in because they have about 9 different flavors and you get a taste of every one of them. Some of them are not as good as others, but that's just a personal find for myself. But 9 different flavors, 9 different little tiny shots. That's enough.
Oh, it was enough.
It was enough. Yeah,
It
4
was
rums and 5 whiskeys, I think it is. Something like that. Or 4 rums and 4 whiskeys and a moonshine. Something like that.
And several cocktails.
And a few cocktail tastes.
Yeah.
So it's well worth it. So I always try to take everybody there. And then in the end of the day, there is their crew.
That was good. That was a good picture.
Yeah, where is that picture? Oh, that's right. We were on the gun deck there.
Mhm.
I forgot about that. We were up on the gun deck. So that's everybody that came. That's Ancient City Privateers. And it was a fun, enjoyable afternoon. I started this idea about 6 weeks ago where I put the word out that any pirate captain that wanted to bring their crew over for my 3 o'clock tour, they take the tour and we got everybody discounts.
Mhm.
As much as I'd like to give everybody free tickets, the bosses won't let me do that. And I'll tell you a little story about free tickets. When we first opened the place, Pat Croce gave us all a little lecture and said, there'll be a lot of people that come to the museum and tell you that they are friends with Pat Croce because they're from Philly. You have my permission to tell them I don't have any friends.
Mhm.
That is kind of a hint that there's no such thing as a free ticket. So, but it was a decent discount. It was a fair
That
discount.
was a very fair discount.
And because you're a 501, we worked it out so that the taxes were levied off of it also. So it just made it was a straight ticket buy. So I've had 2 pirate crews do that, have offered to do it. I only have one more Saturday this month, which is the Saturday coming up, and then the Saturday at the last weekend of the month. So if any other pirate crews want to take advantage of this, pass the word around. It is a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. And any of the pirate crews or captains or members that are watching, absolutely take them up on it. We had a fantastic time.
I think the part I like more than anything is that I get to talk about real pirate history, which is different from what most everybody knows. And I know, and this is the best part. And I had pirates from California on a tour 2 years ago, and I know that I'm hitting a chord of understanding and acceptance when I watch their faces change, when I tell them, pirates didn't make anybody walk the plank, or pirates didn't really bury treasure. And when you talk about those things and give at least some bit of evidence or proof, it's interesting to watch people that, for all intents purposes, all of our knowledge of pirates comes from the movies.
It does.
And the movies are great. They're entertaining, but there's many facts that are left out because sometimes those facts are more boring. But if you're into history, those facts are interesting. So it's always fun to do that and to watch the faces of people. So anybody wants to come and take a tour with Captain Mayhem at the Pirate and Treasure Museum, by all means. January 1st starts my 15th year with them. No, begins my 16th year with them. I can always get the math wrong, but that's why pirates would stand everybody on the deck and say, one for you, one for you, one for you. We didn't have to do the math. So it makes it much easier. So where do you see the Ancient City Privateers going from here?
We see ourselves slowly growing. Again, like we talked about a little bit earlier. It's a lot more. It's a family, and again, that sounds cliched, but growing slowly and growing in measured doses, I think helps that out a lot, and it helps everyone build rapport, build some camaraderie, and I think it helps to diffuse any of the. There's always going to be tensions in any group of people.
Of
and I think it kind of helps diffuse that, where everybody has some sort of a link personally somehow.
And so when you run the crew, you have a board because you're a 501.
Mm-hmm.
Does the board make all the decisions, or does the crew have some input?
Oh, the crew has plenty of input. We do. I would say we probably run ourselves a little more like a republic. The crew votes for the board. The board is mostly made up of senior members, veteran members. And, we make a lot of the day-to-day decisions and sort of the boring, sort of behind the scenes addition. But anything major goes to the crew. And really, if anyone has any issue, we want to hear it. And again, I think as we've talked about several issues, there may be something we have not thought of.
That's
So
true.
we want everyone's input, because at the end of the day, this is not my crew. It's not the board's crew. The crew belongs to the crew.
Right.
And everyone's input is valuable. Everyone's opinion is valuable.
So in reality, in St. Augustine itself, inside of St. Johns County, we have the crew of the Blackheart, which is probably one of the longest running crews around, and very few members of the crew. Several of those members have died off. And then you have Ancient City Privateers, you have the St. Augustine Swashbucklers, and then you have the crew of the Elks Lodge. Those are the four, unless I'm missing something, I don't think I am. Those are the four crews within St. Johns County, St. Augustine.
Are you talking about registered in St. Augustine?
Yeah.
Right.
So then you have the Seawolf Privateers in Flagler County. You have Crew of the 13, which is Flagler County also.
Okay.
And then you have the Matanza Bay Buccaneers, which is Duval County. They're registered out of Jacksonville. So in reality, there's 7 crews in this area.
Sure.
And then you have, if you go a little further, there's the crew of the Space Coast, and some of them come up and are very supportive of everything that goes on here. And then you have the crew of the Queen Anne's Revenge. They're a very supportive crew of certain things that go on. But I think one of the things one of the reasons I'm mentioning all of this is that I've gotten too old to want to fight with anybody anymore. And I think that if we all understand that each one of the crews is doing something for their charity and supporting the crews in some way, shape, or form is a good idea, it might make a big difference in some of the crews getting along. Now, there are some people that can't get along with anybody.
I think that goes with anything in life.
It does. I mean, I was in league with all the magicians in Las Vegas, and there were some that just can't get along with anybody.
You should have made them disappear.
The guillotine was better than back then. So you've got so many different levels. It's the same in Ren fairs. It's the same in reenactment groups. It's the same in cowboy reenactment groups. When I was out in Tucson, Arizona, I was a gunfighter at Old Tucson Studios for a little while. So it's great if we can talk, we can communicate, and then we can turn around and you're doing a work for the charity that you enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing the work for the charities that we enjoy. And if you can come and be a part of that, that's great. If we can come and be a part of that, that's great. But if something happens that we can't, I've actually put it out on the page or out on our show. There are several ways to support. Presence doesn't necessarily have to be there. Presence by word of mouth and helping support by spreading the word or making donations. There's several ways to support somebody.
Sure.
If the entire crew of one pirate crew doesn't show up at your event, it doesn't mean they don't care. What it means is they may have something else going on, and calendars are the way they are.
And it may not even be a pirate event. It may be personal events.
That's true. It could be. And I always tell people, family, job, and schooling because even at our age, some of us go to school. Those are the first three things that they give you an automatic excuse not to have to participate in things. Jim says, don't forget the crew at the tax collector's office. Surely extraordinary pirates pillaging with a smile. Yeah, they are stealing it all from us.
Taxation is theft. Did I
Yes.
say that out loud?
No, I didn't hear it at all.
Okay.
On that note, we'll have a cheer though to it.
Cheers.
Cheers
Yeah,
on the
cheers.
rum. No more taxation. We'll see what happens.
Mhm.
But in reality, pirates didn't like the government anyway. So, last word before I jump into another segment. What do you think?
Well, I did.
Did you bring anything else you wanted to talk about?
I did. When I wanted to talk about when I went to talk about pie in the sky, I thought about all these things, and I thought of the facts and figures, and how do I describe the group, and how do I do this, and all. Well, and I was in the middle of working today. I had a little bit of a break, scrolled through mindlessly on social media, and I saw a post from Malia, who is the founder and the head of Pie in the Sky. And I read through it, and I just wanted to share that with you.
Please do, please.
Yep, and read
And
this.
Pie in the Sky is a good charity, and we're glad we can help you promote them. So let's hear from you.
So this is from the founder and director of Pie in the Sky of Malia. Pie in the Sky is 15 years old this month, same as Ancient City Privateers, ironically. I opened a little pie shop on Main Street in Hastings next to Johnny's to sell pie, to fill in the cracks and services for farm workers who worked in the fields. The men and women I met and the stories they shared were never easy to hear. Most days on my 45-minute drive home, I would be in tears thinking about the abject poverty and the inhumanity that I learned about. Today, after helping many, many farm workers, then seniors in Hastings, and now seniors throughout the county, every story I hear still pains my heart, and I've heard thousands. Mrs. M called today and left a short message saying that she was in trouble. She said she was having a tough time making ends meet. Her call ended with her shaking voice breaking into a tearful plea, I need some help, please. When I called her back, the first thing she did was apologize for crying. And she was crying again. She's a 75-year-old cancer survivor. She has a can of green beans and a few cans of baked beans, but she says, I'm doing all right, I am. I'm not sure who she was trying to convince, but clearly she is not doing all right. We'll have a bag of fresh produce, eggs, and bread and other staple items out to her right away. It's what we do. I'm sharing her story with you today because I want you to understand the plight of our senior neighbors in need. I want you to feel what I feel when a 75-year-old woman calls me crying and says, I need some help, please. I want you to know what Pie in the Sky does, and I want you to know why. Mrs. M is someone's mother. She is someone's daughter. She is someone's aunt. And just like the farm workers from 15 years ago, she has no one who can help her. No one but us and you. So come out and enjoy the pub crawl. Come out and enjoy Blackbeard's Ball. Have a wonderful evening at these events. The tickets are down there at our events page. But understand what you're supporting and where it's going. And if you don't want to buy tickets to these events and you want to donate directly to Pie in the Sky, that's fine too. Their website is down there. And the cliche is every little bit helps. But with this group, every little bit helps because they're adding people every day. And 600 people by the end of the year, there are at least 10 times that many, according to them, that are going to need that help. So donate the money. If you don't have the money, donate your time. They're a fantastic charity, a great mission, and a great organization, and they're wonderful people to work with.
Well, that's a very good letter. It gives me thought to share a story with you. And this story is really, truly how Ancient City Pirates started. And most people probably don't know. So there were 7, 8, 9, 10 pirates in St. Augustine around this time. And a few more started to come in. And none of us were wealthy. None of us had lots of money. And times were tough back then too, because we're talking about 2007, 2008. And it was a bad time in Florida. And one of the things that we did as a group, we weren't Ancient City Privateers at the time. We were just a group of pirates. And we would get together one night a week and just have a potluck supper. and everybody brought their food. We had one location that we went to, and we'd all go and we'd sit and we'd eat, we'd joke and laugh and cut up and have a good time and share camaraderie and share food. So everybody brought just a little bit of what they had. And the meals were always wonderful, and it was a mix and conglomeration of everything. There was nothing about any meal that was themed. It was just bring whatever you think you can bring. And it started in the summer of 2000, summer or fall, I guess, of 2007. And then into 2008, we started to get this wise idea that we could make something of this. And we kept doing it and kept doing it. And we had the very first pirate gathering, which was in 2008. And we formed the paperwork, and then things went the way they went. And really, truly, that's probably the really big heart of what a pirate crew is. They start as something small and they become bigger than themselves. And Ancient City Privateers started as a group of about 8 to 12 people that just shared their meals once a week, talked about things, had a good time. Yes, there was drinking, and it blossomed from that. And there were times that we had 20 or 30 people in that yard sharing food.
Wow.
And then it came time to be more cohesive and form a crew, and we formed a crew, and it was just a good time. And that your letter and what Pie in the Sky does kind of reminds me of how we really honestly started. And I actually just last week told my wife that with the way things are going, when you go to the store and you can brag that you can carry $150 worth of food in one bag, that it might be time, and my wife and I are considering for our crew that we might start to reinstate that concept. So I throw it out there that other crews might want to consider the same thing. That's one way to promote or to instill that family attitude that you talked about.
Yes.
That cohesiveness that's very important amongst people that want to work together and have fun together. And we're considering it. Now, will we consider it as a weekly thing? I don't know if we'll consider it as a weekly thing, because sometimes I don't know if I want to be around everybody every week.
That's fair.
But we might consider it to be something as an every other week and pick all the nights in advance and do it and make plans. But I think it's something that we're going to consider ourselves. And it sounds like it might be something that would work with a lot of other crews. And I hope that you will consider that the very basic idea that all these crews work towards is charities of some type. You work with Pie in the Sky. We do Inc., which is investing in kids. And if you don't know what that is a way for them to help make sure that teachers do not have to spend money out of their own pocket for their classrooms, plus the Humane Society, plus whatever else. So it's just a way to do that. So consider it. But it made me think that's actually the way Ancient City Privateers started in the very beginnings in the fall of 2007. Upon that note, I am going to tell Davey it is time for This Week in History. So Davey, if you want, This Week in History is sponsored by Dick's Wings. If you want a great lunch, a great burger, because that's all Davey eats.
Mhm.
He's like Wimpy and Popeye, and or a great hot dog. They have lunches starting at $8.99. That's a pretty good deal for a lunch. Go have a good lunch at Dick's Wings 7 days a week. On that note, Davey, go ahead and give us This Week in History.
Welcome to This Week in History, sponsored by our good friends at Dick's Wings Bar and Grill. Wings, salads, wraps, quesadillas, and more. No matter what your taste buds crave, they've got you covered. We begin This Week in History in the year 1861. U.S. President Abraham Lincoln prohibits Union states from trading with Confederacy. 1862. Confederate General John Hunt Morgan and his raiders capture Gallatin, Texas. 1877. To his amazement, Thomas Edison records himself reciting "Mary Had a Little Lamb" on his just completed cylinder phonograph, a device that recorded sound onto tinfoil cylinders. 1907. First taxicabs operate in New York City, imported by Harry N. Allen. 1908. Henry Ford's company builds the first Model T car. 1916. Pablo Picasso, Max Jacob, Moise Kissling, Ortiz, and Perquet are photographed in Paris. 1927. Wings, one of only 2 silent films, the other being The Artist in 2011, to win the Oscar for Best Picture, opened starring Clara Bow, won Outstanding Picture in 1929. 1939, The Wizard of Oz, American musical fantasy film adaptation of L. Frank Baum's book, premieres at Grauman's Chinese Theater, Hollywood. Directed by Victor Fleming and King Vidor, with cast featuring Judy Garland as Dorothy, Ray Bolger as the Scarecrow, Jack Haley, Tin Man, Burt Lahr, Cowardly Lion, Frank Morgan, the Wizard, Billy Burke, Glinda, and Margaret Hamilton, Wicked Witch. Songs by Harold Arlen and Yip Harburg. 1945. VJ Day. The Empire of Japan surrenders unconditionally to the Allies, ending World War II. August 15th in Japan and other countries depending on the time zone. 1955. U.S. President Eisenhower raises minimum wage from 75 cents to $1 an hour. 1964. Mickey Mantle switch hits, home run record 10th and final time in a game, with one going up to 502 feet. 1969. Woodstock Festival opens in Bethel, New York, on Max Yasgur's dairy farm. Performers include Richie Havens, Tim Hardin, Ravi Shankar, Melanie Arlo Guthrie, and Joan Baez. And finally, in 2015, U.S. Postal Service issues a second postage stamp featuring rock singer Elvis Presley as part of its Music Icon series. Design is a black and white photograph taken by William Spear in 1955. And that was This Week in History.
All right, very good, Davey. I was just going back through the all the comments. I just wanted to go back and do a quick look at and thank Two Skulls for being here. I believe he's part of Ancient City Privateers. We thank you. Linda Hall also. A new member, we thank you for that. We hope you watch us every week. If not every week, you can at least watch our shows when they download, and we'll tell you about that in just a few minutes. Let's see. Parlay 8 is here. I saw something else in here. I wanted to make. Will the Historian said, I'm surprised Taylor Swift hadn't beat it. There are some logs or some lists that say Taylor Swift is the #1 album of all times now. Because I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, I quickly left those lists and went back to Michael Jackson. So it's my show. So Captain Smoo up in Quebec, thank you very much for watching us there. Is there a logo on the back of the t-shirt? No, there is not. We're going to leave it blank unless Parlay 8 wants to put their logo on it, and then we can figure out something to do about it. How's that sound? Let's see. Pie in the Sky loves the special pirate deliveries. Of course they do. Who doesn't love a pirate coming up to your doorstep and saying, here, have some free food? Paula De Niro, she was part of the early Ancient City Privateer too, and she's happy to see that.
Oh, good.
Bo, it's nice to see you, Bo. I saw a comment you made. I'm trying to find it so I can answer it. There are going to stagger back. We got that one already. Where is the one that Bo? There it is. I need to come down to buy some more rum. What you need to come down for is to drink some more rum. You can take some with you, but come down and drink some more rum with Captain Mayhem and the crew. Parlay 8. If you're sleeping, I'm going to send you something.
And it's not going to be rum.
It won't be rum this time. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've gone through it all. It is time for us to do Across the Captain's Desk. And it's a short one tonight, but it's one that I want you to think about and just to give you some thoughts. But it is across the captain's desk, and I throw these words out to you. And so let's start with this. Today was the start of school in many parts of Florida, I'm sure probably in many parts of the country. This is the start of what most of us older ones would consider the start of the next year on the rat race. Vacations are over, new clothes and supplies are bought, school begins, school zones enforced. And one thing I remember was the start of the school year was also the start of new shows on TV or a new season of old shows on TV. I guess cable has ruined that fun for everyone. Cable, that's the next thought. The internet, social media, for all things about it that are good, we can easily list just as many things that are bad about it. Too much information isn't really a bad thing, but too much slanted information is terribly bad. I'm not a complete fool, although some would argue that, but I'm also will not claim to be in the brightest tool in the shed or the sharpest bulb in the chandelier. But I do believe I can tell the difference between a steak dinner and a turd. That meaning, let's hold back on some of the political rhetoric that we keep seeing now. It's also negative. What happened to the thought, treat others as you wish to be treated, or you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all? Long gone are these thoughts of respect, behavior, passed on to me by my mom. Going to add one more just to add to the pile. Lead by example. Last week across the desk was about how ridiculous our political leaders have become from local to national levels. It really is shameful, and even more so when political candidates or celebrities are guilty of not adhering to the very 3 axioms I just listed, but point fingers at all others and blame them for violating those axioms. The blame game, it seems, is much easier to play than the take responsibility for your words and deeds game. So just some advice for this week, starting off, because I still like to consider it the start of a new year with school starting and everything else going on. Family first. Some of us have friends that are family. That is important also. Number 2, watch out for all children around you. It takes a village is more important than ever now. Number 3, pay attention, be mindful, use common sense and the understanding of human nature when you have to make decisions that involve your family and those around you. Number 4, look at many aspects of decisions you must make or words you might speak. Don't speak or act in haste. Number 5. Number 4 is especially important when it comes to casting your vote. And I guess that's maybe part of the talk tonight. Think long and hard before you cast your vote. Your vote is important. And I guess it's a great way to end everything right now. A quote that might be attributed to Twain or Lincoln is a good way to end this. Better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak out and to remove all doubt. Now, if any of you need that in plain, simple English, including some of the political candidates locally especially, and drama queens and Karens around us, understand it. Let me say it this way in plain, simple English. It's better to keep your mouth shut and appear stupid than open it up and remove all doubt that you are. So, think before you act and be considerate of everybody around you. Consideration is long lost. And that is across the captain's desk. Aye. Davey, you think that one is okay?
Sure.
Good. Sure. I hate that word. Aye. Do we have a guest on deck, Davey?
Of course.
Go ahead. Good job, Davey. And I guess Parlay 8's on the show next week, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
All right, I'll try to stay awake. And as you see, the sheriff will be in a couple of weeks. Also, September 2nd, ladies and gentlemen, my good friends Chad and John, they will both be on the show. Chad, most people know Chad as the face and the voice of Pedro Menendez and or Don Pedro Menendez or Ponce de Leon. And John Staveley is the director of tours at the Pirate Museum. He's written a few books on St. Augustine history. And the entire show on September 2nd will be devoted to the history of St. Augustine, the oldest city in the nation. And our birthday on September 8th, 6 days later, will be 459 years old. That's going to be a very special show for us. And we will be doing it over at the poker table and not in the captain's quarters. On the poker table, it'll be discussion around the table. So we hope you'll tune in for that one September 2nd. Davey, what is the joke of the week reveal?
All right.
Okay, it's time for the answer to the joke of the week. How did the pirate die from drinking milk? The answer is the cow fell on him.
Did you notice hellfire was underneath the cow?
That was utterly bad.
Oh, gosh, that was terrible. I heard you on that one. All right. Oh, that was, man. All right, Davey. Did you make that one up?
Yes.
Yes. You weren't going to admit it at first, were you? All right. Let's see. It was a primary source of. Okay. I think I know what you're talking about. I used a map of St. Augustine from the 1500s in my class on Friday. It was a primary source. Oh, very good. If you need anything else on St. Augustine history coming up with our birthday, let me know and I'll send you something or anything you need. I'd be happy to do that for you. So it's time for a few thank yous. It's always proper to thank people who are part of our show in some way, shape, or form. And we have a wonderful thank you appreciation video. Davey, go ahead and shoot it up.
The Captain's Quarters podcast is indeed a ship sailing the seas of the world, always in search of history, knowledge, and adventure. It takes a crew to run a ship, so we take this opportunity to thank those who help keep this ship afloat.
The casting crew: Captain William Mayhem, Navigator Davy Longwood, Gunner Hellfire Henley, Cartographer Mandy Joe, the Powder Monkey, and Juan Cam.
Helping others gives a crew purpose. Our treasured charities that we support: Inc., investing in kids; the Humane Society of St. Johns County; Aelia's Acres, a no-kill animal rescue zone; and the Cadets of the St. Johns County Fire Department. The four major charities that we support, but there's always room for more.
You too can be part of the crew and support the show in many ways. Go to Patreon. A small monthly contribution as Powder Monkey or First Mate memberships, or a single contribution. PayPal or Venmo. Go to YouTube. Hit the like and follow buttons to join our ranks and support the show. It does take a crew. Thank you.
Good job, Davey. Show our platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, every Monday night at 8 o'clock, it's YouTube Live. I always tell everybody the advantage of the YouTube show is that you can be in the gallery and make smart aleck comments to us or join our jokes or be a part of the show. But then it downloads to Spotify, Instagram, Stitcher, iHeart, CastBox, Apple Podcast, and Amazon Music. You can watch us or listen to us on 9 platforms. You can also go to our YouTube channel and see all 147 episodes, plus all the shorts that we create. And Davey and I are getting ready to create a whole slew of shorts on pirate history out of the Pirate and Treasure Museum. So be prepared for that. What are our numbers, Davey?
Miss Mandy did send me that.
Good. Let's see how good.
Good job, Davey. I always like to make sure that our guest knows how important they are to us, and we give a gift. This is a crew coin from the podcast. Our logo on one side, our sign-off features on the other. We give one of those to every one of our guests that comes on board. We thank you very
Captain.
much. You're very, very welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And it was much appreciated that you accepted and came aboard, and it was wonderful to talk about your charity. We always like to give you the last word before we put one other thing in. Our email's there, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to write us, phone us, email us, give us suggestions, tell us we stink, we're pirates, or just have a good time and congratulate us on great shows, but give us some great ideas. That's what the email is for. It's communication, ladies and gentlemen. Good or bad, communication is supposed to be there. But upon that note, before we do one last thing, I always give my guest the last word.
I think I've covered everything, but I do want to say thank you for reaching out. Thank you for having our crew over the weekend. Thank you for camaraderie and attempts to build bridges. And I appreciate you coming on the show and being able to put that out into the community and to give our charity a little more publicity, get that out there. And I appreciate what you're doing here every Monday night.
Well, I appreciate
Thank you
it.
again for having me.
Well, thank you very much. It's always great to have some other pirates here that like to share and share their information and their charities. It's always a good thing. Upon that note, ladies and gentlemen, we always like to sign off in the best way possible. So, Davey, it's just me and you.
Yeah. Part of the podcast.
Part of the crew, always. We can't do it without you. We could, but it would just be me and Davey here. We appreciate everybody else showing up. We appreciate your loyalty. We appreciate you watching us every Monday night at 8 o'clock. We'll see you next week. On that note, we sign out, always.
Time of history's embrace, Captain.